incredible to be back. It's one of those things that just never, from the start, didn't really want to think about the finishing and how all that would be. It was all about just getting out on the boat and living it and just getting comfortable and just plodding on, because we knew that if we just stayed safe, stayed sensible with our decisions and just kept on going, that eventually we'd get here, and that's kind of how we've worked it, and actually we've done a pretty good time off the back of that, which is amazing, and it's a bonus, to be honest, because our plan was always just to get around, so it was never chasing the record really, as much as it was great to follow Yellow Brick and sort of say, okay, well, we're so many days ahead. That can kind of get you down as well, because when you have to anchor up for a few days, you can just watch that thing catching you up, and it's like it doesn't really do you any favours. So yeah, for us it was just all about getting around and just playing it safe and just being smart with it.
And there were some big decisions to make, weren't there, on the journey?
Yeah, I think when we did have times when we had to make decisions, we both feel that we made the right decisions at the right times, but more often than not, when there was no decision to be made, we just had to go with the flow, and every time we were in that position, I think we made the most of that flow. We did really, really well on those points, like going into the Irish Sea. It was fairly rough conditions, but there was nowhere to go. You can't call for help. You don't want to call for help anyway, but you can't even if you want to. And it's rough seas, rough skies, and you just go for it. When you do have the opportunity to make decisions, you make sure you make the most of that decision. So, for an example, when we left Arbroath, we gambled on it, and it was the right decision to gamble on it, but it didn't pay off, and we came back in 5 miles out, 5 miles back, so it was about 12 and a half, 13 hours to get out to 5 miles and about 2.5 hours to get back, but we never complained about that decision. It was the right decision, but it didn't pay off, and we did that the whole way around.
And for you, what was the highlight of the race for you, Jason?
It's something to pause on, to be honest. Initially, the highlight, for the sake of saying it, would be it is an incredible island and a hell of a way to see it, and you can't get that any other way. This is it. It's a beautiful way to see a beautiful country.
Josh?
Yeah, as far as there were so many highlights throughout the trip, but to kind of nail it down to one, I think it was maybe getting towards the end and knowing that you'd gone through the worst of it, or as far as we knew, and know that we were coming home, and we've had all those experiences, and that's going to no doubt help in the future with anything else that we do as well, because it's not just applying it to that particular scenario, it's about how you deal with certain situations, and I think we did well. We worked well as a team, and it's just incredible, amazing, and the support from everyone else as well.
Was there ever a day you thought you were going to give up?
No, there was no. There's never a question of that. We always thought, we were just talking to somebody earlier, if there was ever a moment where there was something we considered there may be something that could go wrong with the boat, our first reaction would be, how can we fix that? Not, oh no, that's our race over. We never ever considered stopping or giving up, so to speak. It's just, we were out there to do a job, and that job, as Josh said, was to get around, and we were fortunate with the weather. On the whole, I think we were fortunate with the weather. There was a balance when you look back, but we had some rough stuff as well. But there was never a moment where we considered, or one of us said to the other one, listen, this is it.
Now, you've rowed the Atlantic, Jason. How does it compare? How do the two races compare?
So the main differences between rowing across the Atlantic, which I did a number of years ago now, and rowing around the UK, it's very, very different. I mean, you're in the boat permanently. 51 days it took me to row across the Atlantic. And my partner then, Phil Carrington, we rowed a system where it was 2 hours on, 2 hours off, and then changed to 90 minutes on, 90 minutes off, and that's almost permanent. We were only in the boat once together, in that compartment together, I should say. This is very different. It's very planned. You have to go through routines. You have to consider when you're going to stop, if you're going to stop. It's a very, very different experience, to be honest. And there's no one that's harder than the other. Physically, I think the Atlantic is a real amazing challenge, really, really tricky. This can be as physical as you want it to be. With the Atlantic, you've got to just keep going. But rowing around the UK, as well as the beauty and the diversity of that beauty, you've also got the personality. That's the similarities between the two. That doesn't change. You've still got to swap your oars. We changed our system. We went from 2 hours to 90 minutes, and then 90 minutes back to 2 hours, because it just worked better for us to get more rest in between. And the difference between the two is, I'm not sure how many people can answer that question, because I think there's only one other person who's done both. So I'd like to speak to her and see what she says.
And looking ahead, 2015 will probably be another bigger race than this. If people are thinking about doing it, and maybe doing it as a pair, because you're a unique club, there's only 4 of you who've ever done it as a pair. What would you say to anybody who's thinking of doing round Britain as a pair?
I'd say definitely go for it. It's an incredible adventure, and it's the great thing is being as a pair is it allows you to get a taste of what it'd be like to do it by yourself as well. Just because you've got one person in the cabin and then you're out dealing with everything yourself. So in that scenario, whereas with the bigger teams you can have different people for different jobs, whether it's navigation or whatever. As a pair, you've pretty much both got to be able to deal with everything, which is great. It's the way that we like to kind of run anyway, so it's perfect for us. But yeah, just definitely go for it, and don't worry about being naive as such. It's more just go through and you'll find out what you need to as you go. Just prepare yourself as best you can, and then outside of that, you just got to be sensible.
And for me, I think if you're going to consider doing something like this, consider it early and get that right partner. There's only going to be one person that decides to do this, and then they're going to have to ask somebody else to do it with them, and that's a major thing. You've got to get that person right, and know, regardless, that person you've asked is the right person to do it with. And from that moment on, don't look back. Everybody will help you to get to the start line, and it's up to you to get to the finish line. In terms of any challenge of any kind, it's just about having a thought. Once that thought's in your head, you got to make it happen. And as I said, if you've got that thought in your head, people will make that happen for you as well. If you want it badly enough, there's nothing stopping you. Nothing stopping you at all. If anyone wants to do this in 2015, I think they'll be in for a great surprise. It's better than you could imagine it'll be, and I wish anybody who's going to do it as a 2, and I think it's the way to do it. The Islanders were very fortunate as a 4. They all got on tremendously well. But I think the way to do this is as a 2. As Josh said, you still have that kind of solo experience as well. And anybody who does decide to do it as a 2 can call us anytime. We can give them as much advice as we can, but in the end they're going to experience their own times.